BBC's unprofessional journalism, falsely branding Simon Ekpa as IPOB leader, despite court testimony. In the wake of the Finland Päijät-Häme District Court's sentencing of Simon Ekpa to 6 years in prison for terrorism-related offences, the British Broadcasting Corporation, BBC, has once again drawn sharp criticism for what appears to be a blatant disregard for factual accuracy and journalistic integrity. The BBC's recent articles, such as IPOB leader Simon Ekpa collect 6 years for prison's sake of terrorism offences among Oda Tins, repeatedly label Ekpa as IPOB leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. This persistent mislabeling and misinformation not only undermines the BBC's credibility as a global news outlet, but also perpetuates harmful stereotypes and misinformation that could incite and cause violence in Nigeria and in Biafra. As U.S. President Donald Trump famously quipped during his 2018 press conference with then the British Prime Minister Theresa May, BBC, that's another, it's called fake news, a sentiment that resonates strongly in this case, highlighting the broadcaster's pattern of biased reporting. IPOB, the non-violent Biafran self-determination movement, led by the detained Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, has categorically distanced itself from Ekpa on multiple occasions. In an official statement following the sentencing, IPOB Media and Publicity Secretary Emma Powerful emphasized that Ekpa explicitly told the Finnish court he was not a member of the IPOB, describing himself instead as a mere content creator. Powerful further clarified that Ekpa had publicly disowned IPOB prior to his arrest and even vowed to destroy it, underscoring the deep rift between the two entities. This is not a new development. As early as 2022, IPOB accused Ekpa of illegal activities and affirmed its commitment to peaceful advocacy, explicitly stating that IPOB does not endorse violence. Yet, the BBC's coverage glosses over these facts, opting instead to conflate Ekpa's autopilot group with the broader IPOB movement. This error is not isolated. In a November 2024 article, the BBC Pidgin service described Ekpa as a leader of proscribed militant group Indigenous People of Biafra, IPOB, prompting immediate backlash from IPOB supporters and fact-checkers on platforms like X, formerly Twitter. Posts from verified IPOB accounts, such as at IPOB Ashanti and at IPOB Central, labeled the reporting as fake news and urged users to report the BBC for misinformation. One social media user account accused the BBC of colluding with British and Nigerian interests to link his criminality to IPOB and silence over 70 million Biafrans. Such claims are echoed across social media, where the hashtag #FakeNewsBBC has trended, reflecting widespread distrust in the outlet's Africa coverage. The implications of this branding are severe. By associating Ekpa, a convicted instigator of violence, with IPOB, the BBC risks tarnishing the group's international reputation as a peaceful advocate for a UN-supervised referendum on Biafran independence. IPOB has repeatedly submitted petitions to Finnish authorities, including documentation disavowing Ekpa and his violent tactics, such as the formation of the Biafra Liberation Army. Ignoring these submissions smacks of selective reporting, potentially influenced by geopolitical pressures from Nigeria, which has proscribed IPOB despite its nonviolent stance. Trump's dismissal of the BBC as fake news during his 2018 UK visit was not an isolated barb. It was part of a broader indictment of media outlets that prioritize narrative over fact. In that press conference, Trump deflected questions about his criticisms of Theresa May by accusing the BBC of fabrication, a tactic he has employed against fake news media nearly 2,000 times during his presidency. The BBC's insistence on linking Ekpa to IPOB despite court testimonies and official statements to the contrary, mirrors the kind of post-truth journalism that Trump decried, one where facts are bent to fit a preconceived story. This is particularly unprofessional given the BBC's own fact-checking arm, BBC Verify, which has debunked AI-generated fakes and misinformation in other contexts. Why then has it failed to verify IPOB's disavowals? Critics argue that the BBC broadcaster's coverage of African self-determination movements often aligns with Western and Nigerian government narratives, portraying groups like IPOB as inherently violent to justify crackdowns. As one X post noted, BBC is a fake news media by publishing that Simon Ekpa is leader of IPOB, highlighting how such reporting could exacerbate tensions in Biafra, where Ekpa's actions have already led to hundreds of deaths and economic disruption. Unprofessional journalism like this erodes public trust and can have real-world repercussions. In Nigeria, where media bias has historically fueled ethnic conflicts, falsely equating Ekpa's terrorism with IPOB's peaceful agitation provides ammunition for the government's suppression tactics. IPOB has warned that such misinformation is a deliberate and malicious attempt to contaminate Kanu's ongoing trial. Internationally, it hinders IPOB's efforts to gain sympathy from bodies like the UN and EU, which have recognized the right to self-determination under peaceful means. As Trump might say, dismissing unfavorable coverage as fake news is one thing, but when the media itself peddles inaccuracies, it validates those very criticisms. In an era of disinformation, outlets like the BBC have a duty to report with precision, not prejudice. Failure to do so not only harms journalism, but also the lives of those caught in the crossfire of misreported conflicts. Family Writers Press International uses this article to serve as a stark reminder that the struggle for truth is as vital as the fight for freedom. As social media users continue to call out the BBC's intentional blackmail with posts like, "Fake news, BBC mischief makers IPOB has nothing to do with Simon Ekpa," the pressure mounts for accountability. Until then, the broadcaster's credibility hangs in the balance, much like the fragile peace in Biafra land. Family Writers Press International.